For many people, discovering a term that encompasses the idea of who they think they are in a way that no other word can be a very eye-opening and freeing thing. My name is Genie. I consider myself a multi-passionate, a scanner, or a multipotentialite. Anytime I bring this topic up, I always list off a series of names and then boil them down to a single definition: a person with a wide range of interests and talents, with the ability to excel in multiple fields, and unable to commit to a single career path or pursuit. So why the extended list of names if they all basically mean the same thing? Well, they don't necessarily. They have their own varying meanings, coming from different sources, all meant to represent a very complex personality type. So in this video, I'm going to explain the different terms, what exactly they all mean, giving some context to where they came from and why they exist in the first place. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think these labels are so important for people like me. I'm going to use a variety of sources for this video, including all the books that I've read and some online articles and websites. Some of the analysis will come from my own viewpoint and interpretation, so please keep that in mind. Like you, who probably clicked on this video because you identify with one of these labels, we are constantly learning more about ourselves, and it is a very long, hard, but fulfilling process. If there's anything you'd like to share or something doesn't feel quite right, please feel free to comment down below. I'm going to start with the word polymath. Polymath, coming from the Greek words polis, meaning much or many, and meaning to learn. It was used to describe individuals with a wide range of knowledge in multiple subjects, usually capable of making contributions in various fields like science, arts, literature. Because of its history, this word comes heavy with emphasis on prestige. We typically use it for people who have made significant contributions to their fields, enough to be celebrated throughout history. For example, Aristotle, a philosopher and scientist whose work spanned across many various domains, including ethics, political theory, biology, metaphysics, and more. Or Hypatia, who excelled as a mathematician, astronomer, and philosopher, and was widely celebrated for her leadership in these fields. She also gained praise for her teaching abilities across a spectrum of subjects beyond her specialized fields. We have also used this term to explain some later figures in history. In the US, you most likely have learned about Benjamin Franklin, who is widely known for his inventions, but he was also a printer and publisher, scientist, diplomat, the list goes on. Or Rabindranath Tagore, who reshaped Bengali literature and music as well as Indian art. He was a known poet, musician, and artist, becoming the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913. Now, this term became highly valued during a certain period that generated its own name for its multi-talented individuals, which comes to our next word. The Renaissance man, or Renaissance person. The Renaissance was a time driven by human curiosity and discovery, with many leading individuals who continue to inspire admiration for their contribution to multiple fields of human knowledge and culture. Those who excelled in fields such as the arts, sciences, and humanities were celebrated and still remain iconic to this day. Key figures who come to mind when we think of Renaissance men are Leonardo da Vinci, known for contributing to science, mathematics, engineering, and also made famous for his iconic paintings. Michelangelo, a sculptor, painter, architect, and poet, again famous for his art contributions, and Galileo, who made significant contributions to physics, mathematics, astronomy. They all embodied the Renaissance spirit of inquiry and mastery over multiple fields. At their core, a Renaissance person embodies the belief that an individual can and should develop capabilities in as many areas as possible. Now, maybe you can understand why I said before that these terms come with the heavy weight of prestige and seem to require significant contributions to multiple fields to be adopted. However, some people still use it today to describe someone with similar qualities. I shy away from applying these terms to myself because I know that deep down in my own abilities, I simply do not have what it takes to be a true polymath. And I'm not alone. It's for this very reason that others have sought to redefine or make this personality type more accessible for those of us with multiple interests and talents who don't necessarily excel in all of them. And so that brings me to my next word, Generalists. In comparison to the Renaissance period, where people were celebrated for having expertise in more than one field, with the Industrial Revolution and the rise of professional specialization in the 19th and 20th centuries, society shifted the emphasis towards deep expertise on specialized fields. So, as opposed to a specialist, a generalist has a more broad approach to knowledge and skills, usually showing some level of expertise in multiple subjects rather than just one. The term generalist is used in many other ways too, like in finance, where it might describe a firm's broad-based approach to investment or operations. But it can also be used for people who work jobs that require more varied skills. I think a good example of this would be a manager. Their duties span across multiple areas, including strategic planning, team leadership, financial management, human resources, and a lot more. So now that we're talking about someone who does many different jobs that may or may not be related, the term jack of all trades might just come to mind. Usually this term comes with the negative connotation, master of none. Jack of all trades, master of none, implying that while a person may have skills in multiple areas, they lack depth or expertise in any particular one. In the book How to Be Everything, the author points out that many cultures possess a term similar to jack of all trades, master of none, showing a very narrowing of societal values around work and expertise, where depth in a single field became more highly prized than breadth across multiple areas. The saying shows skepticism or distrust of those who are versatile but not exclusively dedicated to a single profession or area of study. However, to challenge this narrative, new, more positive terms have emerged that advocate for the value and potential of the jack of all trades in our contemporary world. This is actually my favorite because it's the first one that I discovered and truly related with. When I was in college, I came across a blog post discussing the book Refuse to Choose by Barbara Scher, which is all about the scanner personality type. A scanner is meant to describe an individual with innate curiosity and enthusiasm for exploring a wide range of interests and passions, opposing the traditional view that one should find and stick to a single career path or area of expertise. Scanners thrive on variety and change, constantly seeking new experiences and knowledge. They are continuously discovering new passions and are excited by the process of learning and exploration. Due to their wide-ranging pursuits, scanners are highly adaptable, able to quickly pick up new skills and adjust to new challenges or situations. They also thrive at being amateurs, being able to try out something new, though at times when their interest wanes and they no longer get pleasure from a particular pursuit, they feel external pressure to stick with it and guilt if they don't. Scanners often resist the pressure to specialize in one area. They find deep satisfaction in pursuing multiple interests, even though society values specialization. Scher encourages scanners to embrace their natural pattern of jumping from one interest to another as soon as their curiosity wanes, returning later if it so pleases them, or dropping it entirely. The point is, curiosity is a good thing, and it's okay to indulge in our impulses, and not in our best interest to force ourselves to pursue something if it doesn't bring us joy. So for me personally, discovering this term over 10 years ago was really eye-opening. I realized that there was a word to describe how I felt and advice to live the life that I always wanted to live. Now, Barbara Scher was not the only one who sought to redefine the jack of all trades stereotype. Going back to the sentiment of a Renaissance person, someone who is able and encouraged to expand their knowledge across different fields, brings us to our next word, the Renaissance soul. Margaret Loewenstein published the book The Renaissance Soul to offer a modern take on the multidisciplinary interests that characterize historical Renaissance figures. Just like Scher's scanner, a Renaissance soul resists the societal pressure to specialize and instead is encouraged to embrace a lifestyle fueled by diverse passions and pursuits. They are flexible and adaptable, but where they differ is that a Renaissance soul, much like the Renaissance people of the past, are more are keen to dive deeply into their passions and interests and continue them for the long term, usually being able to integrate them across multiple fields. Whereas a scanner might jump from passion to passion, sometimes diving deep into it and sticking to it, and sometimes not. Both of these types struggle with managing their many interests, usually feeling very easily overwhelmed. And the Renaissance Soul approach is about empowering your personality traits and many interests, unifying them, and finding a life design work model that fits best with your strengths, usually something outside of specialization, or taking a specialist field and making it more broad-based. So basically, the Renaissance Soul, despite the misconception that having multiple interests means lacking depth, the Renaissance Soul can deeply engage with their passions, fully commit to their pursuits, and their varied interests are not at all conflicting or problematic. Next up is the Multipotentialite. This term was coined by Emily Wapnick in the book How to Be Everything. Given all the previous terms, I feel like the author was trying to bring them all together into one cohesive term that could fit all of us. They also did a TED Talk on the topic that became quite popular and helped to get the idea of this personality type out there in the trending world. Some of the main characteristics of a multipotentialite include diverse interests. Again, multipotentialites are inherently curious, much like our scanners, finding themselves deeply interested in a wide array of subjects and activities. Where they might differ is in their capacity and desire to excel in these different disciplines. They are great at combining their interests and skills that they've accumulated into their projects or careers, making them creative powerhouses and idea generators. Using a term like multipotentialite and having it trend through social media was a really great way to bring people with this personality type together and encourage self-acceptance. Using a name like multi plus potential does well to empower the personality type, showing that we're not just dilettantes floating around from one pursuit to another out of pure laziness and lack of commitment, but that we truly have potential in multiple fields and we're not afraid to explore it. Oh, I actually really don't like what I just did there. So I just said dilettante with a negative connotation. It's just so ingrained in my mind, I guess. I feel like when this word is thrown around, it's meant to be insulting. Like someone who is just simply an amateur at everything they do, or they do things like superficially without any real dedication to the pursuit. But actually, originally the word dilettante was not supposed to be negative at all. It was supposed to be an admirer of the art, literature, science, for their own joy of fulfillment. Which sounds very much just like someone who has hobbies, right? This term speaks deeply to the human desire for exploration and the enjoyment in learning. A reevaluation of dilettantism might offer a broader appreciation for the ways in which people choose to enrich their lives through varied interests, giving a more inclusive understanding of lifelong learning and personal growth. Back to multipotentialites. I really loved the book about multipotentialites, How to Be Everything, but it feels strange to call myself a multipotentialite. I am the kind of person that gets imposter syndrome real bad. So most of the things that I do, I feel almost like I'm not doing them well enough, or that there's always ample room for improvement. And I think this sentiment is shared by a lot of people with this personality type, especially those who gravitate more towards the scanner personality definition. We feel too modest to embrace the multi-potentialite title, perhaps because we question our own potential, or possibly because our approach to our interests is driven more by the sheer joy and fulfillment they provide rather than a desire to master them or become experts. Okay, finally, that brings me to my last word. Multipassionate. This is a really great word, and I think a lot of people prefer it over the other ones. I've seen it used a lot online, though I'm not exactly sure where it originated. There's a book called The Multipassionate Manifesto, Mastering the Art of Everything, which defines a multipassionate person as someone who possesses a deep enthusiasm for multiple areas of interest, much like all the other terms that we've discussed. Multipassionates interests or passions are approached with strong enthusiasm and give them joy and fulfillment. So their motivation for pursuing multiple things is rooted in pure curiosity and passion. So I feel like the multi-passionate term is almost an ode to the dilettante, trying to shine a more positive light on the pursuit of passions for pleasure rather than for the satisfaction of excelling at something. Okay, that was a lot of words and a lot of information. So I'll tell you how I kind of categorize them in my mind. First, we have the driven by mastery and historical achievement group, which includes the Polymath and the Renaissance man. These terms are centered around historical figures known for their deep knowledge and significant contributions across various disciplines, often within both the arts and sciences. We can continue using these terms today, but they usually come with the emphasis on significant contributions. The broad skill set without necessarily seeking mastery group, which includes the generalist and the jack of all trades. They're grouped for their emphasis on a broad range of skills and adaptability, with a less explicit focus on achieving mastery or deep expertise in these areas. The integration and depth of interest group, which includes the Renaissance soul and the multipotentialite. These terms describe individuals who not only explore various interests, but also seek to integrate them deeply into their lives and potentially their careers, with an emphasis on creating a cohesive identity that accommodates their multiplicity. The passion and emotional engagement group. In this group, I put the multipassionate along with the dilettante. This grouping highlights those who pursue their interests primarily for personal fulfillment. These two types will engage with whatever interests them for the sake of pleasure rather than any other motives such as mastery. And the way I see it, if they don't feel that passion or pleasure in a project or hobby or career, they won't be into it and are more likely to want to move on to something else that does spark passion. And last but not least, we have the curiosity-driven exploration group, where I put our lone wildcard scanners. Really, I think that scanners could fit themselves into any one of the other groups, but I put them by themselves because scanners are characterized by their curiosity and their desire for more variety in their lives and among their interests, and they're motivated by the joy of learning rather than by a commitment to mastery or to excel in one of the fields that they're focusing on. This also is not a strict grouping. I feel like all of these can integrate and intertwine and mix as much as they like. This is just how I have grouped it in my mind, but certainly they are not all super strict in their definitions. They're all very flexible and fluid, and each individual that you come across who might have these kind of qualities, they're going to vary greatly on what their interests are, what their strengths are, how they integrate it into their lives, how they keep up with them. Everyone is very complex and different. I would love to hear what your interpretations are of these different terms, or maybe how you group them, or which ones you think are the most similar or dissimilar. If you haven't guessed yet, I identify the most with the scanner personality type. I also prefer just calling myself a scanner or multi-passionate, but I usually throw in the other ones, like especially multipotentialite, just because it is a really well-known word. If you're interested in learning more about this kind of personality type, I have another video about it that just goes into a little bit more detail about the strengths that we have as multi-passionate people. If you have any questions or anything else that you would like to share, please let me know down below. If you're returning from the first video and you had watched and you subscribed and you commented, thank you so much. I loved reading the comments so much. It was just exactly what I wanted when I made that video. I wanted people to feel heard and understood, and I hope things are going well for you in whatever you're doing. If there's any kind of video that you want to see, please let me know. I have so many ideas. That's the reason why it takes me so long to make a video. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I have enjoyed making this video so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!